phone in airplane mode to keep people from messing with it. Never hit record.
Man, it is super sensitive, though.
You're not kidding.
Uh-huh.
All right, let's see. Can you hear me pretty well?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Your headphones good?
Yep.
All right. So I'm gonna I'll hit record in 5 seconds. I'll play the intro and then we'll go. What are we doing here? There we go. Okay. 5 seconds in, we're going to the intro. A Wicked Sobriety production. Welcome to the Dirtbag Adventures podcast, an in-depth interview-style podcast about outdoor recreation by Wicked Sobriety Productions, hosted by me, Derek Kern. Listen now for free wherever you get your podcasts. Links in the show notes. Dirtbag Adventures podcast, episode 004, Christopher King. What's up, brother? Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, it's man, I'm super stoked to have you here. It's been a long time since you and I've been face to face, and I'm really interested to get your ideas and some opinions on some things today. Before we jump into the interview, I'm gonna have you introduce yourself. So if you don't mind, kind of give us your name, age, where you're born and raised, and maybe some of your favorite hobbies.
All right. Christopher King. I was born in Canton, Georgia. Unfortunately, you're going to be 49 this year, man. Getting on up there. Live life in this wheelchair. Do everything I can.
Awesome. So you want to tell us what's going on with the wheelchair?
I have spina bifida.
Spina bifida.
Yeah.
And before we jump into the interview part of it, I just wanted to kind of take a minute and tell you that I wanted to have you on the podcast within the first few guests. There was a time back when I started the Jeep Club with a couple of guys. That's how we met.
Yeah.
And after we met, we became good friends, and you found out that I did a lot of hiking. Mm-hmm. And I still remember this day like it was yesterday. One of the trips that I was going to go hiking on, you told me, you said, hey, man, when you go on that trip, be sure to take a lot of pictures, a lot of videos, and post them up, because some of those things I'm never going to get to see because, you know, you're in the wheelchair. And that was really the start. I mean, I had Instagram and I had Facebook and stuff, but I didn't really do a lot of photos or, you know, videos or anything like that until you said that to me. And then it was like every time I would go out, I'm like, all right, man, I got to get a video. I got to get a picture. And,
I know, man. I was always looking forward to where you were
and you've
going.
always been true. Like every picture I've ever posted or ever video, you've liked it, you've loved it. And so that was really kind of the start of everything that I've created from, you know, it started with Instagram because I'd post everything on Instagram.
Yeah.
Because originally it was photos, and then I decided, I can start doing these little short clips, and then the short clips turned into, let me get a GoPro, that turned into the YouTube channel, and then now the podcast. So I just wanted to have you on in the first couple episodes to let you know that you were a huge inspiration for the reason why I have a lot of the social media platforms that I have, because of you asking me to take pictures and videos and stuff way back when.
Well, that's cool, man. I appreciate all that stuff.
Yes, sir. So let's jump into this interview. You said you were born and raised in Canton.
Yep.
Speaking on like outdoor things, what is the first significant event that you can remember back to your childhood that kind of introduced you to the outdoors? Like, was it a dad thing, or was it a grandfather thing, or can you remember what that specific one was and how old you were?
Yeah, man. I grew up like over, I guess it's like the Univetta Road area.
Okay.
And right across from where we lived at, there was a family, and they had a little farm over there, and it might have been tiny or huge. I mean, I was a little kid; everything seemed so big. But they had a lot of woods, and me and my dad would go over there and squirrel hunt. And I can remember going back there and shooting my first squirrel and
That's
stuff
awesome.
like that.
Pretty young, I'd say.
Oh,
5,
yeah.
6, 7 years old.
Maybe 4.
4? Okay.
Yeah, maybe
yeah.
4 or 5.
So your dad was really kind of the person who introduced you there.
Yeah. I can remember when I was that small, he was like, they were into coon hunting, and we'd trap coons back there and stuff like that.
So you just kind of answered my next question. You killed your first squirrel around that age.
Yeah.
Can you remember the first deer that you killed and how old you were?
Yeah, I didn't really start deer hunting until I was in my 20s, and I was hungry. So, living on your own, and I was probably, it took several years too, man, because of the laws were a little different back then. You couldn't kill does so much, and there's buck only days, and it took 4 or 5 years to kill my first deer. I was probably, I would say 24, 25.
Okay. That's funny enough. That's kind of an average over a couple of different people that I've talked to is, I figured it would be a lot younger with kids being introduced.
Yeah.
Excuse me, with kids being introduced as early as they are to hunting and stuff. But the last couple of people I've talked to about this, it's like 20s up. I was 30 when I killed my first deer. So,
Yeah.
What about fishing? Did you get into fishing like as a young?
Yeah, we always fished. My stepdad, he was into fishing, so we were always fishing.
Okay, that's awesome. Over the years of hunting, what is your biggest deer that you've killed?
Pretty nice 9-pointer that I killed.
Nine-pointer?
Yeah, I chased that thing all fall, man. I tried to kill it with my bow, got a shot at it, messed that shot up, and then finally, just right before Christmas, I was like, man, I got to have some deer meat, and I took my rifle with me, and that joker just stepped right out in front of me.
If I'm not mistaken, I think you posted a picture about that not too long ago.
Yeah, I think it come up in my memories, and I posted it up.
Right. What about fish? I know you do a lot of trout fishing. Do you do a lot of bass fishing? What do you think the biggest fish you've ever caught is?
Caught a pretty nice largemouth out of like Lake Ackworth.
Okay.
There's some pretty good fishing down there.
Never fished there.
Yeah. And my biggest trout, I caught it in the Hot House Creek. It's about 20 inches long.
So Hot House is apparently a mecca for large trout because I know a couple of people who have pulled some bigger fish out of Hot House.
I gotcha. You can't really get to it anymore though. Like where we were at, there's no access anymore. It's houses.
Yeah, and they've also started putting a lot of stalkers in. If you go out Hot House back towards the Tennessee side, somewhere down there they're stalking it. I don't know exactly where, but it shows up on the stalking report every so often. So
Gotcha.
those fish that are in there are probably not, a lot of them are probably holdovers, I'd guess.
Yeah, I would think so. Like my grandfather, he had a road up there named after him off of Curtis Switch. It's
Okay.
called Robert Miller Lane. And he had some access because there was nothing back there back then. And you could go down to where the Hot House Creek come into the Toccoa. I mean, it was just like right there.
So my brother-in-law, probably a year ago or maybe 2 years ago, we went up to put in off of Curtis Switch on the Toccoa.
Right at the bridge.
Yeah, we were going to float from the bridge down to Horseshoe Bend. And my brother-in-law got there before everybody, so to waste some time, he had parked right on the side of 60 where Hot House goes under 60 and was doing some fishing there. And he hooked into something. Don't know what it was, but he said it was so big that it broke his line immediately. And, I mean, that was right there.
Yeah.
I mean, right off the side of the road. So Hot House apparently holds some big trout in there.
They probably wash up. I mean,
Yeah, especially that because that's not that far from the Toccoa right there. And so, do you keep up with any of the current events that's going on regarding hunting and fishing?
I try to. I mean,
So I have a couple of things I want to talk to you about and get your opinions on.
okay.
The first thing I wanted to talk with you about was the little cheating fiasco that happened not so long ago with the guys up north where they put the weights in the fish. So nobody likes a cheater, right?
Correct.
So that within itself says a lot. You know, these guys had their boats confiscated. They had their rods and reels confiscated. Essentially, they had everything in their arsenal that was for fishing confiscated. They are facing time in prison or have been in prison already. So I guess my question really is like, in your opinion, is that punishment overstepping the power, or is it a sufficient punishment for what happened?
Man, I think that it's pretty harsh. I mean, to lose everything like that, I mean, they didn't really, I don't know the whole story, but it doesn't seem like they really broke a game law. I mean, they cheated in the tournament for sure. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, punishment there, but I mean, losing everything like that.
So my opinion on this is kind of that there should be a punishment for cheating for sure, but a lot of the things that they're doing are going off past accusations. So they were saying that these guys have cheated in the past. Apparently the bass boat that they confiscated was something that had been won in a tournament from a past year where they said or had been alleged that they cheated. It was never proven that I know of. And it's kind of like, in my opinion, if you're going to charge somebody and you're going to do something for something that they've done, it should be for what you can prove, and that would be for them cheating. Taking all their stuff off of past allegations and not being able to prove it is like, seems like it's far overreaching in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I mean, it's dirty for sure.
That's when I was reading the updated information on it, then they came in and they took the dude's bass boat right out of his garage, and basically all of his fishing rods, everything he had in his garage that had anything to do with fishing, they took all of it. It just seemed a little crazy to me.
Yeah, that seems pretty excessive. I mean, but there again, I think there should be some pretty strict punishment for shoving those big old weights down.
I agree with that. I agree with that, because you're not only.
I mean, that the fish didn't deserve that.
They didn't deserve that, nor is it fair for the guys who are actually there legitimately fishing to win that pot. You know, that's a lot of money on the line.
I mean, I'm sure it was a felony. You know, the amount of money that
and
would be considered stealing.
It was, and there is some kind of law there about in the rule book for cheating in a game tournament, but I don't know. They cited it. I don't remember exactly what it is, but
I mean, I'm sure there's some animal cruelty there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. So the next thing I was going to talk to you about was, I think it's been going on 2 years now. I'm not a big turkey hunter, so I don't keep up with it a lot. But they made some rule changes to turkey hunting last year.
Yep.
And then apparently they changed it again this well, let's see, 2020 and 2021, there was some rule changes. Then they changed it for 21 and 22. And from what I heard, I think they're like trying to change it up again for 23.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't heard that one.
So in 2021, they made the limit 3 birds, correct? Or am I wrong on that?
It had always been 3. I think they might have changed the season in 21.
Okay.
Started a little later. And then last year they dropped it to 2 birds. And they have to be killed separately. Like, you can't kill them at the same time.
That was a big one. Like, well, not necessarily kill them at the same time, but at the same area. So from the way I read the rules or the law.
That's on public land.
Yeah, so like, for instance, if you were in Cohutta and you shot one, you can't hunt that same area. You got to go like over 10 miles away. Mm-hmm. But then I heard now for 23, they're talking about moving the season because apparently season's opening a little early.
Well, last year they changed the season. It started later, like 2 weeks later.
Okay, maybe that's what it was. Maybe I'm getting my.
Yeah, I don't know of any changes for this year.
Okay, so I got the email from DNR saying, "Hey, take this poll survey," and I've tried to participate in them, even if I don't hunt that specific animal. But just having some friends that are turkey hunters, like There was a little bit of feathers ruffled when they started changing seasons around. What do you think about all that?
Man, I want turkeys to hunt. I mean, so if they feel like there's a danger of them being gone from here, whatever we got to do to, to help them out.
Right. Is it a threat of killing them off, or is it? Because I had read somewhere that it was also the changing of the seasons were like trying to accommodate, I guess, when turkey goes into rut.
Yeah, well, it just depends on who you talk to. I mean, some people think that it's the weather. Some people say it's the moon. I mean, who really knows?
Yeah, right.
I'm not a biologist, but they're easier to hunt earlier.
When it's a little colder.
Yeah, well, they're still, they're just when they start separating and the gobblers are with the hens already. I mean, you're not going to call them off of 15 hens.
No. The one or two times that I have been turkey hunting, it was, I won't say stressful because I enjoyed it, but it was not what I expected turkey hunting to be. So.
No, I like turkey hunting. Now, like I deer hunt because just for the freezer.
Right.
But turkey hunting, I like that's what I enjoy, whether I kill one or whether I don't.
So I think my buddy Hunter's been trying to get me into turkey hunting for the last couple of years, and the one time I went with him. I couldn't make it the first day he was there, but we were hunting up in Cohutta. He killed his first bird, and he's like, "Man, there's a lot of birds here." He's like, "You got to come out tonight." So I made the trip up there, and we got on birds the next morning, but we just couldn't make anything happen. And for us, we were spot and stalk sort of.
Yeah.
That was fun. It kept you concentrated on what was going on in the woods around you. So it's definitely something that I would love to get back out and try again.
Yeah, I've been trying for a few years to kill a public land bird. It's hard, man, for me in my situation.
Right, yep.
To find the right spot, and it's just it'll happen, but
Yeah, everything's got to align.
Yeah.
So the next thing I was going to talk to you about, I just read like 2 or 3 days ago that Georgia DNR has decided to change some of the deer hunting dates for longer into January, for like 6 specific counties in southwest Georgia.
Yeah.
Stating that the article I read was those deer down there going to rut like at the end of December. So they wanted to give the guys down there a chance later into January to hunt with a firearm. So I think they've extended the season down there to like January 15th or 20th or something like that for those 6 specific counties for them to hunt firearms.
Yeah, I read something about that. They've had the extended archery season up in the northern section for a couple of years now.
I knew it was till like the 30th, right?
Yeah, I think Cherokee County's one of them. Yeah,
Forsyth County's one. I got
Fulton.
a buddy that hunts in Forsyth, and he was telling me that he's got till the 30th. Yeah, I know that the deer's rut at different times depending on where they're at.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that specific area, they actually had a map on there. It was like an interactive map, and it was different colors, and it was showing what time of the year deer rut, and it was like the Northwest was like real early October, and then like kind of in the middle where we're at was like November, mid-November, like what we're used to, and then a lot of the southern, I guess maybe because it's warmer and it takes them longer to kick off.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but like over in Alabama where I'm hunting this year, their deer are just now starting to rut.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Does it get cold there? Like, is it
It's
cold?
just like here.
Just like here?
Yeah.
Okay.
The area I'm hunting in.
Okay.
But like there's plenty of deer down south, so I mean they have way more deer than us. So
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to change anything.
I mean, I was just wanting to see what your opinion on extending the season was, because I've always thought that the season should start later in the year and then go longer into the winter.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that when they go into rut, then you got to deal with the potential of the does being pregnant or whatever.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because I mean, if you kill a deer in September, that doe could have had 2 deer.
Yeah, and I think September is way early. it's still hot here in North Georgia, and like it doesn't really start cooling off at all really until like mid-October. So I've always thought that they should push the season opening later and extend it later in the year. So I kind of like where they're going with it.
That's kind of how, like Alabama, their season started middle of October, and it'll go through the February 10th.
I like that. I think that's something that Georgia should adopt.
It's really weird, though, rifle hunting like this late in January.
Yeah. Well, it's because we've always been taught that rifle season's over like January 4th.
Yeah. When I started, it was over like January 2nd.
Yeah. I do like that. That would be something interesting to try to, it seems like Georgia DNR is trying to work with the hunters, and they're trying to listen to what everybody's saying. They keep putting these polls out. They keep trying to change season dates. So that'd be something kind of interesting to see go before them.
I think they should let the extended archery season go for the whole state.
Yeah. I don't see why not.
Personally.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I don't bow hunt, but I'm not opposed to it. I don't see why it should be an issue. We were talking about it, me and some coworkers. He bow hunts only, and I was like, why is it only chosen counties? And the chosen counties are some of those most strange. Like they're the epicenter of the population. Why are they getting extended?
Because there's so much growth.
Yeah,
so much traffic.
That's what he was saying. They're trying to mitigate the population of deer, I guess, by extending it to the end of the month.
And that way, more people have access, because there's big deer herds in these subdivisions around here, man.
You ain't kidding. I've had like 5-6 of them come through at a time just right here. And the one day they came in the back and they went around the front and was down in my neighbor's yard. It's crazy. But, so in your opinion, for your situation with being in the wheelchair, I know there are a lot of places that offer handicap hunting opportunities, public land. Do you think that it's enough? Do you think, obviously there could always be more, right? But what you're afforded now?
No. And it's not fair. There's handicap areas, say, that I can drive into, but you can walk into them. But I can't take my four-wheeler and go into the area where you're hunting. I think the rule, to me, there's some stuff that needs to be changed, but of course there's always somebody that's going to take advantage of the system.
This is actually a question that I had come up just to myself a couple weeks ago. I was somewhere, maybe it was over in Rich Mountain. There was a handicap access.
Yeah, they have a nice area over there.
There was a handicap access. It was gated, but the gate was open. So I guess because it was still probably, hunting season. The question that I had in my mind as I drove by the gate was, okay, the sign says handicap access only, but what's to stop me from parking here?
Nothing.
Walk down that creek and then go in there where those guys are supposed to be having their own access.
Yeah, that's legal. And
is it really?
That's where it's not fair, because it's just not fair.
Yeah, for us guys who have the freedom to be able to walk anywhere we want to in the woods, respectfully, we shouldn't be there. Like, that should be for you guys.
That's kind of how I feel about it. Don't make it a handicap area if you're not going to, restrict it.
Right, yeah.
There was a spot on Altoona. This was my first ever experience with a handicap area. So off of Highway 20, it may still be there, it may not. But there was a check station over off of Highway 20, pretty close to the lake. And behind the check station, there was a handicap area. So, with the permit, my handicap permit, I could drive back there. So I drive back there. Nobody else is back there. I'm like, this is a cool spot. So it gets dark. I start out, and I bet you 30 people came out of the woods. That
walking?
That were right on top of me.
I've had a similar experience. Obviously, mine wasn't in a handicap area. That's, I think, another problem with public land hunting is it's just so many people out there. And for a lot of us guys who don't want to pay the thousands of dollars to be in a club, but as far as speaking on the handicap thing, just myself noticing driving around, it seems like there's a fair amount of handicap access points, but not like what I personally, even not even being handicapped, think there should be. I think there should be a lot more opportunities for you guys out there.
This is kind of how I feel about it. I mean, I think that there should be a designated WMA that should be
Handicap only.
handicap only. But I mean, the state does have hunts, but who's to say that I can get off work and drive to South Georgia in the middle of the week to go on a hunt?
Right.
And then the place be closed to me the rest of the season.
I like that idea. Handicap access only WMA, and then make it an extreme fine if you're caught there not being handicapped.
I mean, I guess I'm, a little biased on it, but I just don't. I get it's public land, and there's going to be other people hunting. But if it's supposed to be handicap access, it should be only handicap access.
I agree with that. And I'm not handicapped, but I have a huge respect for what you do. You're still getting out there in your wheelchair. You're still making it happen. It should be a fair point for you to have an area where you don't have to deal with the people who can walk around freely and do and go wherever they want. You don't have that freedom. You can't, walk off into a valley just because you see it on a map. You are limited to these certain areas. And now, because you're limited to those certain areas, other people are coming in on top of you and taking away that privilege.
Yeah, getting, right where I can get. I mean,
so you are a bow hunter too.
Correct.
You like to do a lot of bow hunting, and staying on the handicap thing. So years ago, my grandfather had gotten his handicap badge and was like one of the first people ever, not ever, but one of the very first few to ever have a crossbow.
Oh, yeah.
Back then it was handicap only.
Yeah, you had to get a permit.
You had to have that permit. If you didn't have that permit, you couldn't get that crossbow. And so he had that permit, he got his crossbow, and he was hunting with crossbows. At some point over the last, 10 years, they've decided, well, everybody should be able to hunt with a crossbow.
Yeah.
I'm kind of iffy about that too, man. Like, some of these crossbows that are out there are like shooting a gun.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's 3,000 feet per second on some of these bolts. And for instance, one of the guys I work with, his fiance hunts with a crossbow. All well and fine, whatever. Each to their own. But she shot this deer like 60 yards with this crossbow this year. They took it to the processor, and the guy at the processor was like, man, I don't know what kind of broadheads you're using, but that done more damage than some of the deer I've seen come in here with guns. What? That's crazy broadhead. It's like you're now taking another thing that was meant for people who are handicapped to experience killing a deer with a bow and arrow, and now you've made it for everybody.
That really don't bother me with the crossbow. I mean, me personally, I think bows are kind of topped out. There's not a whole lot more that they can do to a bow to make it any different. They're so far away from traditional archery now. I think that crossbows will be the next big, where archery goes.
Right. I agree with that. I think it's already headed that way. I mean, part of the reason why I don't bow hunt is because it's so hard to find a left-handed bow. I went down to Macon to the Big Bass Pro down there. They had one left-handed bow out of the 100 on the shelf hanging up there. And the guy told me, he was like, man, we don't keep left-handed bows in stock. And he goes, and you're going to pay more for a left-handed bow. And the one they had was like a PSE, I don't know, something high end. And then he was like, you're going to pay several $100 more for a left-handed bow than what a right-handed guy would.
I mean, just order it online somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I've looked online, and I definitely could, and then just take it and have it tuned.
Anymore, that's the best way to order anything.
This is what I've had to do with, I'm experiencing an issue right now. I've gotten into shooting. I have a left-handed bolt Savage Mark II, and I want to put a rail and a scope and all on it to make it a accurate gun. And the bolt, it's not really a side eject, it's more of a top eject. So it's got to have a specific type of rail on it that's kind of cut out for the bolt. Well, they don't make, only like one company makes a left-handed cutout for a bolt rail for that gun, and it's like $60 for a little rail that's cut out for left-hand side.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why am I like $60 for a rail? Come on, man.
Supply and demand.
It's I don't know. I have grown up over the years. Just I end up using only right-handed guns. It doesn't affect the way I shoot, other than, if I try to shoot a bolt gun, then I have to bring the gun down to chamber it with my right hand. But I still, like, I have a 12 gauge that's bolt action, and I shoot it left-handed.
Oh, that's cool.
I shoot pumps, right-handed pump guns, left-handed. It's not the only, like, this Savage Mark II 22 that I have is the first gun that I've ever owned that's left-hand specific. It was given to me as a gift. I've had it for a while. I've decided I'm going to build this into a little shooting gun, and I'm like, well, no wonder I haven't messed with it, because everything's so expensive for a left-handed gun.
Hard to find parts.
Yeah. You ever done a lot of camping?
When I was younger, I used to camp a lot.
Yeah. What do you think was one of your favorite camp areas when you were younger to go camp at?
All of my camping was mostly done up around Helen.
Okay.
Done some camping up there in some areas around Altoona. You probably really weren't supposed to camp, but we camped there anyway.
Yeah, I know. I remember we had in the Jeep Club, we had an event out at Jones Creek up near Nimbleville.
Oh, yeah, I remember I came out there.
You came out and hung out. And I remember you saying then that you had done some camping before, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah, I used to like camping, man, but as far as sleeping on the ground anymore.
It's not for everybody. And we've kind of grown out of that. Even with like us, we've grown out of that as well. I mean, we had the truck set up and all, and even now that's gotten to be where it's a burden, and it's just so much work climbing in and out.
Oh, God, man. A few years ago back, I bought a real nice tent. I'm like, this deer season, I'm going to camp. And I had a hunt I was going to down at Piedmont National Wildlife. And I went down there and got down there. Got down there late, had my tent. I was like, no, man. I went and rented a hotel room.
So how does that Piedmont National Wildlife Refuge, do they host, is it scheduled hunts?
Yeah, they're all draw hunts, but I haven't been in a lot of years, but they have a really cool handicap hunt down there. Like, I don't know if it's still the same since COVID and everything, but they used to, it was a big deal. Like, they had somebody down there cooking all weekend.
Wow.
Yeah. It was
so the experience that I told you a while ago where I've had hunters walk out on me, Hunter and I, my buddy, we went down, we weren't hunting on, Piedmont, but we were hunting on the public land that Piedmont borders.
Yeah.
I can't think right off. It's I know it's like right on Lake Juliet.
Yeah, there's a couple WMAs down there, but I can't.
It was one of the WMAs. He was recommended to go hunt, and so we were down there. It was like a doe only day. It was a public hunt, and it was only going to be open for like a few days. We roll in, and there's people everywhere. We end up finding this little pull off. We pull in, we're in his camper van, we set up the van, and then we head off into the woods, find us a place before nightfall. We come back, get up early the next morning. It had rained overnight, it was kind of foggy, hike in a mile or whatever to our stands. And we were hunting probably about 100 yards away from each other. He had his climber that he carried in, so he was up in the tree, I was just on the ground. And I don't know, we were there for a few hours after daylight, and we start hearing this ruckus coming down the hill, and we thought for sure, there was a big deer coming in. Nope, it was hunters. And these guys never even seen us. I don't know what, they weren't just paying attention or what, but they come down, they jumped over the creek, and they walked within 50 yards of us, and then cut back up to the road or the access trail, and got out of there. And I told him, I'm like, man, this is crazy. Someone's gonna get shot out here.
Yeah, one of my first experiences, I live right across from Pine Log, and I'd found a spot. It was during a rifle hunt, and I could still walk on crutches back then, and I found the spot that you could get off the road and go between these two big rocks. You could watch this creek bottom. I was like, man, this will be a good spot. It's pretty far back. Nobody's going to be here. Well, about 30 minutes before daylight, there's like 15 flashlights coming through the woods.
Crazy, man.
And then somebody shot like right around. It had to have been close.
A lot of guys that I've associated with, I've always heard the story like, yeah, man, as soon as it's daylight, you'll look around and you'll see orange everywhere. Like, I never really understood the expression until I did a public land hunt, and then it was like, man, this is nuts. There's people everywhere.
Yeah.
I think it was over towards the War Woman area that we were talking about before the podcast. There was, no. Yeah, sort of. It's Tate City. I don't know. I think you've been up in the Tate City area, maybe?
No, I remember you went fishing up there.
I did.
And told me about a pier or something.
They got a really nice handicap access off. It's like it's a gravel road, obviously, forest road, and then it's like a ramp that goes down to a big deck, and it's right over the water, so you can fish right off the deck there. And they've got the railing cut down low, so guys in wheelchairs can cast over. And when I was there, we didn't. I mean, I guess maybe we missed the stock truck or it wasn't time. I don't know. We didn't catch anything that day. It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, there's a spot like that up, I think off at Deep Hole on the Toccoa. It's either Deep Hole or Sandy Bottom. We checked it out maybe last year, but it was so hot and dry, man. The water was way down. But my favorite spot's over like at Edge of the World. They have some handicap access down there. This got brought up on a previous podcast, and that area kind of really aggravates me because, as you mentioned, it's handicap access, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with access with handicap hunting. I've been there at that access, just walking the boardwalk with my dogs, and I've witnessed guys standing downstream of the bridge, casting upstream of the bridge, trying to catch fish, because from Still Bridge to Emacola Bridge, it's like certain rules and regulations. Yeah, they have delayed harvest.
And so these guys are trying to bypass the rules and regulations and fish a handicap spot by fishing from downstream of the bridge, casting up. And it's like, what are you accomplishing? Like, if you do catch something, okay, whatever. But like, this area is highly trafficked by DNR.
Yep.
Every time you go there, there's a DNR guy there.
Every time I've ever been down there, we've been ID'd, license checked. I mean, always there.
It's a mecca for fishing, right? But then just right down from there, you have Edge of the World, where everybody from North Georgia knows what Edge of the World is. They come there, they get drunk, who knows what. So DNR's always there.
Yeah, it's not. So it's like, why are you
pushing your luck? But that's one of my favorite areas to go. And unfortunately, last time I was there, probably 4 or 5 months ago, you can actually, if you follow the boardwalk under the bridge, just on the other side of the bridge, there's some stairs that go up to the left.
Yeah.
If you go up those stairs, you can actually, if there's a hiking trail there that comes out onto a road on the right-hand side of 53 there. I think it's called like Dovefield Road or something.
Okay, yeah.
They've got like a 2-mile hiking trail. You go up those stairs, and it actually comes back around to the end of the boardwalk.
Okay, yeah.
The viewing deck for Edge of the World is. But they're at the top of that loop. It's a loop hike, but in the very back corner of that loop hike, there used to be some old Forest Service roads back there. We did some bushwhacking back there, and we came to this waterfall that not very many people know of. I actually found the waterfall by Google. I can't even remember the name of it now, but it's a 3-tier waterfall. It's like 60 feet, the best I can guess. And it drops off. We scrambled to the 2nd tier. We never got all the way to but it drops off into the Etowah down there somewhere. But I had gone there to take my dogs on that loop hike, and the boardwalk was all beat up. There was missing boards. There was graffiti all over the signs. Like the kiosk they had there, you couldn't even read what was behind the glass because people had spray painted it.
Isn't that crazy?
It's wild, man. Like out that far, 53 or whatever is a busy road, but that section of Edge of the World and that fishing area is pretty far out there.
And that's like gang graffiti too.
Yeah, why are you out that far in the woods graffitiing things? That's one of those questions that I guess will never be answered because
that's one of our favorite spots, though. We like the boardwalk down there.
Man, I tell you, I had a crazy experience there. There was right after Christmas, like 2 years ago, I went there, and it was me and Thor, and I had the dogs. We were doing a hike, and there was no other cars there. It was cold. It was kind of like it is today, overcast and raining. We had walked down the handicap drive down to the bottom to the boardwalk, and we had walked around for a while. We were on our way back up. And as we were on our way back up, there was another man and a young boy coming down. They both had earmuffs on, like shooting earmuffs, and the dude was carrying a rifle case. And he was like, is there anybody else down there? And I'm like, no, there's nobody down there, but it's illegal to shoot that here. And he's like, oh, nobody's going to know. He's like, we're going to hike down that trail over there, and we're just, he got this for Christmas a few days ago, and we just need to side it in. We don't have anywhere to go. And I was like, well, they make ranges for that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like
there's several public ranges.
Yeah, I'm like, they make ranges for that kind of stuff. And he's like, yeah, I mean, we're not going to be here long. We're just going to shoot. I'm like, listen, let me leave, and then you can do whatever you want, because out of sight, out of mind. I said, but just be aware, that's illegal. And he said, well, I ain't going to be here long. I'm like, whatever, man. I'm out of here.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of people hiking around down there.
Mm-hmm. On both sides of that boardwalk. I mean, that trail goes up from, that handicap point way up into the woods up through there.
Yeah, and like people coming down the river from
Devil's
Elbow and all that.
And I've got some whitewater friends who put in there at the handicap access points, and we go down and we run Edge of the World.
Ooh, I bet that's pretty fun, though.
Yeah, I haven't actually gotten the chance to run Edge of the World because, believe it or not, you actually have to catch it in a heavy rain when the water's up. Otherwise, there's obstacles that come into play with the water at its normal level. So I haven't got to do it yet, but I've been there and watched other guys do it. You can't really run anything on river right. It's all plugged up with wood and stuff, so you kind of got to stay left. But when I was younger and we would go there and I would see that, and I'm like, man, that's like scary stuff. Now it's like after I've been on the Ocoee and some other places, I look at Edge of the World and I'm like, it doesn't really seem all that bad.
Oh, I've watched people slide down it. I mean,
yeah.
Some guy, we were going down the boardwalk, and some guy had pulled a massive brown trout out there from the bottom. Like,
really?
Yeah. It was like all those people down there swimming and stuff. I couldn't believe he'd caught anything.
Did you see where the new state record brown was caught at Curtis Switch last year?
Yeah, I did see
that. Guy caught it right off the bank on like a 10-pound test. Giant butterball trout.
I do remember that. We went, I guess it was last summer. We had taken the day off and went trout fishing in a couple places. And that was a spot I wanted to go to. But man, it's like a canoe put in. Like, now we couldn't even get close to it. There was several guides taken out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually got into an argument with a guy there this past year. I took the wife and the kids. We were going to put in at Curtis Switch and float to Horseshoe Bend. So I parked my truck at Horseshoe Bend, and I had my father-in-law take us in his truck with the boats and stuff to drop us out at Curtis Switch. That way we wouldn't have a car parked there. Well, we get there, and my father-in-law backs up to the boat ramp so we can unload, and this guy comes off the bank, and he starts yelling, like, you can't park here. Like, I'm like, wait a minute. This is a public access. Yeah, but the guy, like the tour services here have right of way. And I'm like, so you're telling me that we can't back our truck up to unload our boats? He's literally going to be going in 5 minutes. Well, you just got to hurry up, because if that bus comes back, they have priority. And I'm like, this is a public boat launch. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think you have any more priority over it than I do. Just because you're making money here is the only reason that you're doing this.
Yeah. I really don't see how that guy caught that fish right there, as much traffic as there is, or even had time to.
Well, we floated from there to Horseshoe Bend one weekend, and then we came back like 1 or 2 weekends later. We put in at Taman Park below Lake Blue Ridge and floated from Taman to Curtis Switch. There were a lot more people fishing that stretch of the river and fishing kayaks and stuff. But when we got to Curtis Switch, there was a guy standing right on the boat ramp, cast right out. I mean, his fishing line was over the heads of people in the water, and he had a whole stringer full.
See, that's where we wanted to fish, but there was just way too many people. Like one boat had come down and they were getting out, and I was like, okay, we'll get our fishing stuff. And by the time there was like another van had pulled in and people were getting out in tubes. But I've always wanted to fish from the dam to there.
Yeah, so we put in at Taman Park, and we caught it on a day when there was only running one gin. And so you really couldn't even tell a difference. And it was kind of low and scrapey, but there were a lot of guys out there fishing that day. And I seen some nice fish they were catching.
Pretty easy float.
It's not bad. Not bad at all. There's like maybe one small rapid that you got to worry about. Other than that, it's mostly flat.
That's cool.
So I seen y'all got more kayaks. And have y'all been, well, obviously it's wintertime, but were y'all able to get out in them before?
Yeah, we made one trip. We went to a hickory log, the reservoir down there in Canton.
Okay. I've never been there, but I've heard a lot of people tell me to go there because it's good fishing.
It's a really cool little lake.
So what kind of fiasco did you run into with those boats? I seen something on your Instagram like finally got my boat.
Yeah. So we finally got all three of our boats, and I'd gotten a trailer. It was going to haul these. It's like an old jet ski trailer. So the kayaks fit real good on there, and I had them all strapped down, and we made sure that they were real tight. Leaving the house, went through Beasley's Gap there in the curves, stopped, made sure they were all super tight and everything. We're headed down the hill, going up to Waleska. You go down this big hill and then back up. And Terry looks in the rearview mirror and she's like, "Stop!" One of the kayaks, I don't know if coming down that hill they shifted, but one of the straps came off and the kayaks just blew off. Right, I mean, I can't believe nobody got hurt, or a car got hit, and one of the kayaks was doing like a frisbee down the road. And one went off down a big old hill into somebody's yard. It was like, oh. But we got them all back on, and we went to hickory log.
Thankfully, I've never had an experience quite like that, but I had something similar. Man, I just bought my brand new Jackson boat, and I don't know, man, stupid expensive, like $1,500 brand new.
Oh, yeah.
I hadn't even put it, like I'd taken it to the lake and rolled in it a few times to make sure that I could roll it. And so me and my buddy Hunter were like, you know what, we're gonna do a whitewater weekend. We're gonna go up to Nantahala Gorge, and we're gonna kayak Nantahala, and we're gonna go over to the Tuckasegee over in Dillsboro, and we're gonna kayak the Tuckasegee, and then we'll come back and we'll hit the Upper Hooch. We're just gonna make it a whitewater weekend, you know. So we go up and we kayak the Tuckasegee. And the plan was to kayak the Tuckasegee that morning for the release, and then head over to Nantahala Gorge and catch the last of the release on the gorge for the day. And so by the time we get over to the gorge, it's like 2 p.m. When we go try to set up a shuttle, and they're like, well, the last shuttle just left like 30 minutes ago, so y'all are going to have to try to find somebody in the parking lot that will shuttle you. Middle of COVID, nobody, even in the Dirtbag community, nobody wants to be like, yeah, man, jump in the car. So we were just like, you know what? We know now next time to either get here early or bring a second vehicle and do our own self-shuttle.
Yeah.
And so let's head up to the Forest Road and go over to Albert Mountain. We'll camp at the end of Albert Mountain, and then so at the end of Albert Mountain, the Forest Road, there's a side trail there that's probably a quarter to half a mile up to the summit of Albert Mountain. And there's a fire tower up there, so you can climb up the fire tower and you get this panoramic view of, the Smokies. And so Hunter comes from like the motorcycle world, and he's got this trailer built for his trials bikes, and it's essentially a jet ski trailer, and it's got these 3 rail slots on it, and each one's meant to hold a bike.
That's like how we had our kayaks.
And so he had been working on fixing this thing up because his intentions was to build sort of a ladder rack over the top to put kayaks up top, and then we could put motorcycles under it if we wanted to go out and ride like, forest roads or something, and then we would have the kayaks with us. So he takes his trailer to work and he welds up all this stuff. And his intentions was to weld a piece of stock tube to the side, put the ladder rack down in there, and then with a set screw tighten it down, and then that way you could take it on and off. Puts it together, seems like it's gonna work great. I put my brand new boat, $1,600 boat, on the top of this trailer with his boat, and kind of the same thing, man. We're heading up this forest road going to Albert, and I look over in the rearview mirror of his camper van, and I see my boat. When he tied it on there, we had put straps on the front and back like we're supposed to, and then he got out another rope and was tying a rope to my handle and to the trailer. And I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, oh, this is a catastrophe line. I'm like, what is a catastrophe line? He goes, in case these straps fell, at least it will still be attached to the boat somehow, so we won't lose it. And I'm like, okay. Well, those set screws on that ladder rack had came loose, and they shifted in. And when they shifted in, and allowed the straps on my kayak to come loose, and the boat flew off the trailer, was bouncing down the gravel road, and then at one point I seen it like fly over into the woods.
Still tied to the
Still tied to the trailer. I'm like, dude, stop. And I get out, and I was just sick to my stomach. And I had bought a cockpit cover for it, and so when it initially fell, it fell on the tire, and was the trailer didn't have fenders, so as we're driving down the road, this tire is just burning a black spot in the side of my boat and through the cockpit cover. And he felt really bad about it. He was like, man, you haven't even got to paddle this boat yet, and it's already jacked up. And I'm like, you know what, man? Things happen, brother.
Yeah, it's a story, man.
Yeah, and things happen, man. Like, I don't think we could have done it was meant to happen, obviously. There was nothing we could have done to prevent that.
It's like the kayaks flying off the back of the trailer, man. It's like, what else could I have done?
So before you got these new sets of boats, y'all had boats prior, right?
Yeah, we had racks on the top of the Jeep. But man, it's just with me not being able to get up there and my wife doing everything, it was like we can't go that route no more. So we got the trailer.
So when y'all had the boats before, y'all did y'all did quite a bit of paddling back then.
Yeah, we did do quite a bit.
What is or was, maybe still is, your favorite place to go paddle?
I don't know. They're all about the same. We haven't done any river stuff yet, but I like to fish while we're doing it. So
right.
Probably like Lake Ackworth. It was really cool.
Well, man, whenever you want to do some easier river stuff, let me know. I went and back in July, I had my SWR training done, so I've got all the Swiftwater capabilities. Like, yeah. If it makes you feel more comfortable, like, I would be more than willing to go on some rivers with you.
Yeah, I'd like to do that Toccoa from like the dam down to Curtis Switch.
Yeah, that's awesome. That. Yeah. We did. I took my kids from Deep Hole to Sandy Bottoms.
That's like you go under the swinging bridge and everything.
Mm-hmm. That is an extremely long trip. It was like 15 miles. It was basically, by the time we set up shuttles and all, it was daylight to dark trip.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the river was sort of low because we did it in the summertime. I didn't fish that trip, and I actually took a canoe with both of my kids and myself in the canoe. There is one rapid at the swinging bridge that you have to watch out for, but the rest of the trip is like pretty straightforward, and a lot of good fishing in there. Hunter, I think he ended up catching 2 trout and maybe a rock bass that day.
Oh, that's cool.
So, but yeah, man, I would be more than willing to help you get on the Toccoa at the dam. It's a cool float down through there.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, I got a different trailer now too. So.
Yeah, I have I don't know if you've seen mine, you probably have, but I have it was a jet ski trailer, and I built kind of A-frames on the front and back.
Yeah, I like that.
And so I can actually haul, like, between my trailer and my roof bars on the truck, I can haul like 7 boats at a time if I really want.
Yeah, that way we could park one.
Yeah.
One for shuttle.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing about doing rivers. You got to have a shuttle, man.
Yeah, unless there are some, I think on the Toccoa, there's a tubing launch across the street from Taman Park
Yeah.
where we put in at. And
The problem is also with my wheelchair, nobody wants to, those companies don't want to be responsible for my chair.
Gotcha. Okay. So that changes things a little bit. Because I was about to say that day we were putting in at Taman Park, I actually didn't know, but they rent sit on top kayaks at that place across the river.
Yeah.
And there was actually, there was like, I don't know, a group of 10 people on these sit on tops, and this instructor out there was like trying to tell them how to paddle, and I'm over here like flipping on my head and stuff. Nobody was paying attention to this guy trying to tell him what to do. They were all watching me, and my wife's like, "You need to quit. They're trying to learn how to.
They're gonna drown.
They're trying to learn how to kayak. You need to act right." I'm like, "Well, I'm just having fun."
Yeah. I'm just gonna have to find a second chair, like a backup.
Yeah. Yeah, when it gets back in the springtime, I'll get with you and we'll set something up for sure.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
We did because my kids, they love the Toccoa. They've been asking me nonstop to go on the Toccoa again, and I've dropped the ball on it this past year with the whitewater. I haven't really done a whole lot of flat water stuff, so I'm planning on hopefully this upcoming spring and stuff to get them back out there.
Man, I'd like to do that Canton stretch of the Etowah too.
Yeah, that I'm trying to think of where you could.
You can put in at what they call Gober Beach, up off of East Cherokee Drive. You can put in there and float down to like the Reformation Brewery. They have a takeout there.
Yeah.
Or you can go to like Etowah Park. They have a launch there.
So, that's actually a really cool stretch of river because me and my brother did the whole upper Etowah. And coming from East Cherokee Drive down the Canton is a really solid stretch of river. You might have to be careful taking out at Reformation Brewery because I think that boat launch is a private boat launch.
Yeah, you have to pay to take out.
Because so I bought my whitewater boat and all my gear from Nomadic Flow. That's right there. And I know that guy in there pretty well. He's a firefighter and he does SWR classes. I could probably get permission from him, but unless they put another one in there.
That's it.
Is it?
And he was telling me, we went in there and talked to those guys, and he was like, it might be kind of tough for you.
Yeah.
And I figured I could, somebody could grab my boat. I could scoot up it on my butt or whatever.
Okay. That's an option then.
Yeah.
When we came through on our trip, we camped just past the high school.
Yeah, okay.
In a bend of the river. I don't know. We were looking for a place that was getting dark, and at that night when I was in my hammock, I could see the stadium lights for the football field at Cherokee High School. But we camped on this sandbar that was right next to the river, and there was a tributary that come in. And when the tributary ran into the bend of the river, it got pretty deep right there. We banked and we set up our hammocks and stuff and was getting ready for bed. And it was just as the sun was going down. But I just happened to look down in the water, and man, there was these bass down there that were like probably, from the looks up at the bank, they looked like they were probably 12, 15, 16 inches, good sized fish. And I'm like, man, we got to get on that. So I get my pole out and I'm like trying. Nothing I was throwing at these bass fish worked. So kind of chalked it up to I'm just not a bass fisherman because I can't catch a bass for nothing. But I think earlier that day we had come through a specific spot, and I want to say it was from East Cherokee Drive to Canton. I kept seeing something top of the water, and I'm like, what is that? Sturgeon. There was a whole group.
Wow.
There had to have been 15 or 20 of them in this pod, or I guess you would call it a pod or school. And there was a rock and there was like an eddy behind there, and that eddy was kind of doing some weird swirly stuff, and those sturgeon were just popping up in that eddy. Like, I guess they were catching trash or bugs or something in the top of the water. But
man, I had no idea there was sturgeon in there.
Well, if you put in on the Etowah, like over on Highway 9 in Dawsonville, there's a sign there that says, beware of sturgeon, but I didn't realize they were that far south.
Yeah. Some people say there's some good fishing in that stretch. Like it's kind of
Strappers.
yeah, kind
as
of
well,
like an
so
unknown little, because I mean, there's not many. You never see anybody floating down through there much.
no, that's it, the problem. The reason why is because it gets flat. Like me and Nathan were making when we started in Dahlonega, like the first 3 days, we were making like 15, 16-mile days easy with the flow, and then the last night we camped just there at East Cherokee, and the plan was we were actually going to go from Cherokee County High School where we camped at. We were going to go down to Knox Bridge, and then we were going to paddle across Alatoona to the dam, and we were going to take out at the dam. The plan was to take out at the dam, and then this year we were going to start on the lower side of the dam and go to Coosawattee, because it's like another 164 miles on the Etowah before you dump into the Coosawattee on the lower Etowah.
I don't know anybody that's ever made that stretch.
There's not many people that's ever done the upper. Like me and my brother are on a list of like less than 10 people that I could find that's ever done the entire upper Etowah. Like there's not many people that's ever done the entire thing. None that I could find, I don't think, that's ever done the lower and documented it. Maybe there probably has been over time in history, like someone who's done it and didn't bother to say. But as far as it being documented and like put out there, I don't think anybody's ever done the lower.
The only thing I know about is I guess like down from the dam, you have to get out, and there's another dam or something.
Yeah, things start getting tricky in there. Not there, but also around the Etowah Indian Mounds. They've got some rebar and stuff in the river to help with the fish weirs that they have there from the Indians and stuff. So you gotta, like, a lot of people say you can go around, but a lot of people choose to portage it.
Were you guys able to go up Shoal Creek at all?
Shoal Creek.
Yeah, it dumps into the Etowah, like before Knox Bridge.
So that's what I got way off on a tangent there. We camped that night. The next morning we left, and when we left that morning, we still had a pretty good flow, but within 30 minutes, it just turned off flat. And we made 8 miles in about 7 hours, basically a mile per hour. We were paddling into a headwind. We were far enough into the lake at that point that we had bass boats and striper boats flying up the stream on us. And we paddled into a tributary on the left going down. So it'd been river left. We paddled up in there probably a couple hundred yards. If it had rained overnight, if it hadn't rained, we probably wouldn't have been able to do it. But we paddled up in there, and it was wide. It was probably 20 yards wide, the tributary. But there was really nice camping up in there. I actually pinned it on my GPS to go back eventually.
Like Shoal Creek would be on your right coming down from Canton. And if you go a little ways up there, there's one of those old furnaces.
So Shoal Creek is where I'm pretty sure Lucas and Seth buried their Jeep riding out at
yeah, that's right there.
What is that, Rampley?
Yeah, Rampley.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they tried to drive across that didn't end well for them.
There were some holes back there, man.
Yeah, well, they literally tried to drive across the lake or the creek or whatever it was right there at Rampley. It was dry, and
Yeah, if you take those, I used to live not far from there, and we'd ride 4-wheelers back there a long time ago. And you could go all the way to the river, and like the spot where you could get to the river, Shoal Creek comes right in. Right.
Okay, so I've been out there once, I think, back when I had Jeep, and I actually just shared a picture of it not long ago. But my Jeep was stuck.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Because we went all the way down. We actually drove across. When you get to the creek there, you can go down one side, drive down the creek a little bit, and then go up the other side, and you're literally in front of the furnace.
Yeah, that's where I'm talking about.
There was like 7 of us in the ride that day. We all drove across and went up the other side.
Oh wow!
Went around, explored the furnace there. Then we all turned around and come back across, and me and Nathan were the last ones in the group. And somebody was like, "Hey man, drive down the river." And I was like, "Sure, why not?" There I go, and then the next thing I know, my tail lights and everything in the back of my Jeep's floating. Like, well, that didn't work out.
But yeah, I mean, back when I was back there was no trail.
It seemed like it was pretty well torn up by the time I got there.
Yeah, I don't think you can get it back there at all anymore.
And we also, man, we got to get together and go to Murray Lake. I know we talked about that like three or four times, but I think there was probably some good fishing on Murray Lake.
I think you're right. Back there where we checked it out that day when we were riding around
Yep.
Cahutta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And as far as that goes, we could hit Murray Lake and Lake Conasauga because
Yeah, that's one place I've wanted to take the kayaks and we just had never made it up to.
I have a friend on Instagram who does a lot of riding around in Cahutta, and he's got a big Jeep and stuff, and he takes his kayak out to Conasauga, and man, he catches some hogs out there on Conasauga.
Yeah, I bet there's some good fishing there.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a cool spot too.
It is a very cool spot. As far as I know, it's the highest elevation mountain lake in the state of Georgia. Like, I don't think there's another lake that's higher in elevation than that one. But I was reading that there's only bass in there because I was thinking maybe do some trout fishing. Mm-hmm. But apparently, somehow the way the dam worked when CCC built it, like they built it a certain way and the water stayed cold enough for trout to be in there. But then at some point they did something with the dam and it caused the water to flip, and now it doesn't stay cold enough for the trout to live in there. So only bass are in there. But even still, I mean, catching a good sized bass out of a kayak, I'm sure is probably a rush.
Oh yeah. Have one drag you around.
Yeah. So out of all the hunting and fishing and all the things that you've done throughout, growing up, do you have, what is the wildest thing that you've heard or seen or experienced in the woods or out fishing, or you got any kind of quite crazy stories like that?
Well, that turkey falling out of that tree yesterday was pretty wild. Saw a hawk try to snatch a squirrel one time and wound up on the ground. That was pretty wild. But fortunately, nothing really wild.
Yeah.
Because usually it's a ordeal if something wild happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
we did find an eagle's nest one time. Me and my cousin, we were hunting down in Hancock County, and we were looking up in these trees. Man, it was like the nest was made out of limbs. It was huge, and we were like, "What?" I mean, we were just kids. We were like, "What in the world could this be?" And off to the side, there's this big old eagle. It was like screaming at us.
I've been told that you can go to Lake Burton and see eagles flying around.
Oh, that's cool.
Apparently there's like a family of them up there, and one of the local colleges, I guess, has like a camera on them, and they watch because, eagles will come back to the same nest. Mm-hmm. I've never seen any eagles there. The first eagle I've ever seen in my life was when I went to Montana. But when me and Nathan done that Etowah paddle, we were leaving. It was still on like day 3. We were headed for 372 Bridge, and because they just built that new bridge there.
Yeah. We
had just crossed under Yellow Creek, and we were coming between Yellow Creek and 372, and we made the bend. And I don't know why I didn't see them, but as we were making the bend in the river coming under the 372 bridge, Yellow Creek Bridge, a big bald eagle flew out of the trees on the left, kind of flew down about 6 or 8 feet off the water and flew down the river in front of us for a while, and then all of a sudden just dipped and was gone.
Did he catch fish?
He never hit the water. He just kind of flew about 6 feet above the water and then was gone. And we got down to the part where we seen him hit the trees, and we were looking for him and trying to find out, and then, of course, after the initial shock of, hey, man, that was an eagle, that's wild. Uh-huh. We were looking on the bank on River Left trying to see if there was like a nest or something up there, but we didn't see anything. I just thought it was odd that there was an eagle there because I've never seen any other signs of eagles in that area ever.
I did see one time turkey hunting behind that check station for old Altoona.
Okay.
I guess there's there's a few around the lake over there. Mm-hmm. And I think there's some at Berry College too. I think they have like a live cam on a nest.
Probably. That would make sense. Man, I went and took Thor and my brother hiking in Pine Log. We hiked up to Sugar Creek, the lake or the pond there.
Uh-huh.
There is no fish in that thing. There's nothing. Dude, we fished that thing for like 4 hours.
The watershed lake with the dam and everything, or the like the one way up there, like the old mine.
So let me see. I'm trying to think. It's a good sized lake. I mean,
The one with a spillway.
I didn't see a spillway. Maybe I missed it, but there you can actually there's a road. You can drive right into the bank of the lake. There's like a campsite and stuff set up there. We hiked in from East Valley side.
Okay.
The gate was closed. We hiked in. We hiked up to Sugar Creek. I think it was about 3 miles we hiked. Set up camp right there on the bank of the river or the bank of the lake. And we fished for like 4 hours. Didn't catch nothing. Got up the next morning. We fished for like 2 hours. Didn't catch nothing. But just up from there, like a quarter mile, is another little pond type deal that's kind of offset back up in there.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't be able to see it if you were coming to East Valley because you'd come around the curve and the bank would block it.
Yeah, it's on like if coming from East Valley, it'd be on your right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I seen that and I was like, man, there's got to be some hogs in there. And we scrambled up in there, didn't catch nothing. I'm like, man, there's no fish in this place.
Man, during COVID, like when there was no traffic, I would leave my house in my wheelchair and I would roll all the way out to the gate at Pine Log to get my cardio in. And I was out there one day and people would park right there at the gate and, go out there to that lake you're talking about. And I got out there one day and there was this old man and he was unloading a kayak. I was like, dude, you're going to drag that kayak that far? And he's like, yep. I was like, you're not going to catch any fish. I was like, that's a long way to drag that kayak.
Yeah, I don't know about that. That's a little bit nonsense.
Up a couple of big old hills.
So I didn't even know that pond existed. I guess I just called it at the right time, but I came in from Stamp Creek one day, just out running around. Came in at Stamp Creek. The gate was open. I drove all the way to East Valley.
Yeah.
And I drove by the lake, and I didn't even know the lake was there. I just seen a road that was open, so I pulled up in there, and I was like, holy cow, there's a lake here. Beautiful. Left from there, and I was like, well, surely if the gate on Stamp Creek is open, the gate on East Valley is open.
That gate's never open.
I get to the gate on East Valley, it's closed. Yeah. Now I have to turn around and drive all the way back across the mountain back to Stamp Creek. And so I was like, you know what, that would be a cool trip to park at East Valley and hike in. And so the day that we did it, I told my buddy Hunter, I'm like, here's where you park. Well, he didn't follow my directions, and he went on in the Stamp Creek side. The gate, he was able to go all the way almost to the lake, but there's a gate there that was closed. And he only ended up walking a quarter mile to the lake. And meanwhile, we're over here hiking 3 miles in. And I'm like, we get there, and he's like, where you been? I'm like, where have you been? We waited on you at the trailhead. He's like, dude, I've been here for like an hour waiting on you guys. I'm like, of course. But the morning that we went to hike in, we were getting our packs and stuff ready. A couple other vehicles parked there. I could hear a car coming. And I'm like, oh, that guy done made the same mistake I made. He came in from Stamp Creek. He's not going to be able to get through. It was an old Jeep. He pulls up, an old Wrangler. Old man pulls up, gets out, comes up, opens the gate, drives through. And there was a stick leaning against the pole for the gate. And Thor had went over and got the stick and was using it as a hiking pole. And so that guy's like looking around for the stick, and he noticed Thor had it, and he goes, hey, young man, can you bring me that stick? And so Thor takes it over there, and he's talking to Thor, and what it was is he was using that stick as a wedge or as leverage to get the gate to close so he could put the lock on it. And so he pulls up and he sees we have our pack on and stuff, and he's like, y'all must be hiking into the lake. And I'm like, is that a common thing? And he's like, well, there's people that hike in, but not everybody camps. He goes, it looks like y'all are staying overnight. And I was like, yeah, we'll be overnight. He's like, all right, cool. And so we hiked into the lake. And then the next morning, we were on the road walking back out. And he comes up and drives past us and goes, I guess he's the landowner.
Dude, who knows? That's the thing about Pine Log.
Well, he had a key for the gate, obviously. So I guess maybe he's a landowner or the landowner, but it was literally like a week after we did that trip is when I found out that it had went up for sale.
Supposedly it sold.
There was a petition I signed to try to get the state to buy it so that they could maintain it as a WMA. But at the time that I signed it, there was only like 9,000 signatures on there. So
yeah, it's a shame, man. That's going to be all developed. So we were hoping the state was at least going to get the East Valley side for green space with all the building that's coming. But
so do you know anything about the timeline on that? Like, when is the building and stuff supposed to be? Like, can I still go out there and hike right now?
Yeah, right now, as far as I know, it's all still open.
Okay.
Like, as far as I know, nothing
has changed.
Nothing has changed as of yet.
Okay.
But if you look on like the Bartow County Facebook page, they had a proposed land use for it that somebody's come up with. So, I mean, I guess there's still going to be some green space on our side, but nothing like what we were hoping for.
I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I just need to go do it before I can't. But I want to leave from East Valley, and I want to hike up to the top of Pine Log. Mm-hmm. And then I think, what is it, Hanging Mountain or Bear Mountain or something right there?
All of the above. There's like Little Pine Log, Hanging Mountain, Bear Mountain.
Okay, so I summited Little Pine Log last year. I've got pictures from that. But I've wanted to summit Pine Log, Hanging, and Bear, because I think those three in a row.
Yeah, I can see all of those from up for a porch.
Okay, that's the three that I'm aiming for next. But I haven't done it yet because from what I've been looking at, someone has put together a route, and it's on All Trails, and it goes from East Valley down almost to Sugar Creek, and then it kind of cuts across a pasture, and there's a trail that goes up to the top of Pine Log to the radio towers. And then from there, you can go around the radio towers, and you can go down to, I think it's Hanging Mountain first and then Bear Mountain.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's like an 11, but I think I was reading it wrong. I thought that it was an 11-mile hike from East Valley to Pine Log. I think now that I've thought about it and I'm looking back on it, I think it's an 11 miles total. So I was like, man, there's no way I could hike 11 miles in there and then hike 11 miles out. That's over 20 miles. I mean, I could, but it would leave me no time to enjoy anything.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do some more research. It's on my list to do, and I want to do it before I can't because eventually, since it's sold and they're developing it.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, it's going to be a lot of development in there. Plus, Lake Arrowhead, they're doing a bunch of building in there too.
That was another thing I've looked at is trying to come in from the Arrowhead side, but I don't even. Can you even get into the Arrowhead community? Is it gated?
Yeah, it's gated. You just have to know somebody.
Yeah. Because I was looking at the road map, and it seems like if you could get in there, you could drive right up that road to the gate and then just walk up. But I've also looked at trying to walk the road from, what is it, Waleska Highway? Mm-hmm. There's a road there just near the spring that's gated.
Yeah, that's where they're going to start developing.
Really?
You know, I didn't know either, but like when Lake Arrowhead was first a subdivision or whatever, that area right there where that gate is, you're talking about the gate like before the spring?
Yeah, it would be on the, like if you're going towards East Valley, it'd be on the left.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That was a camping area.
Really?
Supposedly, like it was like almost like a state camping area where there's a bathhouse and everything back there.
I know if you look on like Google Maps or Onyx and you look at that section where that gate's at, it looks like that road goes up to the top of Pine Log where the radio towers are.
Yeah, from what I've been told, it does.
And so when we went and tried to climb those bluffs over there, somebody's put routes up there. It's on the mountain project. So like if you go on mountain project, someone has climbed it. We climbed it. It's not good climbing rock. It just tears your hands up. I actually ruined a $400 rope out there. I just cut my rope. I mean, the rock's so sharp. But when we were there, we stopped and looked, and it's posted. Like we're all adults, right? So if you come to a posted sign, you have a decision. Like you can go on or you can't. It's up to you and you only at that time. I'm not going to lie and say I've never been on posted property. That's one of the places that's heavily posted that I'm like, nah, I'm not going there.
Yeah, I guess like when you get in there, like I've never been back there, so
Right.
this is all just how I picture it. The Lake Arrowhead property is in there, but inside of like to the right of that is a big chunk of private land, and right now it's a hunting club, so that's probably where all the posted stuff
That
come from.
makes sense.
And from what I understand, you can, if you're on that hunting club, there's a road in there, and you can take it pretty far close to the top, and then hike to the top of the mountain from that hunting club.
Okay. Well, I may even do this next week. I've got a podcast scheduled for like Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday next week. But I'm off work and I may make it my priority to get over there and hike up. That way it's done before they start developing it. But I'm also going to be on the lookout for that waterfall that you told me about. It's over there somewhere. I just don't know where.
It's got to be close to the top somewhere.
Well, there's like from East Valley over near your house looking up, you can see the rock shelf.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a giant rock shelf there.
And from what I've been told, there's several waterfalls up there.
Okay. So that's something that I'm going to need to spend some time up there. But then again, that's, you know, what I was just saying, like we're all adults. That's another one of those things because even on all trails, it says like here's the route to Pine Log. Pine Log is private. Like the radio towers and stuff up there, you're not supposed to be around them.
That's like Arrowhead, as far as I know.
Yeah. Well, no, neither here.
Yeah, when we were in I guess we were out of high school. We had some friends that lived in Lake Arrowhead, and back then you could drive up there. I mean, it was a rough road, but you could go up to the tower, the big tower up there, and there was like a camping spot up there, and you could look up. They called it the Cliffs, I guess, and you could see like East Valley from up there. It was really cool.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna have to. I hate to hear that it's sold. That's a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, I've asked a few people, and
That's not going to be good for you guys either, man. Having all that construction come in right in front of your place.
dude, down that little road we live on, it's going to be terrible. I mean, even like where Lake Arrowhead is, that entrance we were talking about just before the spring there.
Yep.
That's going to be an entrance, and then there's going to be an entrance off of East Valley Road, but where that hunting club is I was telling you about, and another road. It's just like, because they've been surveying it. I go that way in the morning times, and they've been out there surveying, and there's orange ribbon as far as you can see out through there.
So you've lived on East Valley for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Do you know anything about the history of the hiking trails that are just right across basically from East Valley Road?
Oh, the Pine Log Mountain Trail? I think that's what it's called.
I think it's called Pine Log Mountain. I want to say I think it's Bartow County.
Yeah, I think they maintain it.
Okay, so there's a rock quarry back there. You can hike into that rock quarry, and it's full of water now. Some giant bass in there. I mean, huge.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of like people
Yeah,
posting of them.
I've got pictures of them. I've never packed a fishing rod in there, but I've seen people out there with fishing rods. But I started hiking out there like a couple years ago. Started doing some trail running. Sometime along the way, I looked up some history of that place. I cannot find it anymore, but the history that I looked up was like there was a small town there. Like, I don't know. Apparently, it was a trading route, even back as far as the Indians.
Oh, wow.
And so there was always been a small town there. Something happened. I don't know. Do you know any of the history of that area?
No, I'll have to ask, though, because I think I have some friends that have some property back there, and I'm not sure if they donated some of the land
Okay.
back there that's around the quarry, or
They
if
also
they just let the county have access.
they
to
also
it.
may have donated or let the county access trails on the other side, because I don't know how far it is by walking, but if you look at a map, Garland Mountain hiking trails, which is off of Salacoa
Yeah,
Road, I think. Is that?
I think you get to them just like if you're coming from that Pine Log Trail, like headed back towards Waleska. There's a road on the left. I'm not sure what it's called, but the Garland family lives right there on the left.
Okay.
And then there's a road on the left that goes up to that where they shoot
Clays.
the clays.
And it's just before you get to that clay spot.
Yeah, so it's off of that road somewhere.
Well, looking at Onyx, you can see, or Gaia or whatever, you can see Pine Log hiking trails and you can see Garland Mountain trails, and they're really, really close, some of them. I've not been out to Garland Mountain because it says that it's mostly horse trails.
Yeah, Terry and they hiked out there one time when Colt was real little.
Okay.
But she said there was too many people on horses.
Yeah. And my experience with trails that allow multi-use stuff is I'm cool with it. Everybody wants to enjoy it, but horses, they say bicycles destroy trails, but man, from my experience, horses trampling through water and mud and stuff just absolutely destroy a trail. So I've just kind of avoided that whole trail system altogether because I don't want to have to deal with walking through ruts and horse manure. And
Terry does the Pine Log Trail some, but she said it's kind of hard to follow if it's not beaten down real good sometimes.
yeah, I was out there probably a couple weeks ago, right before Christmas. Took Lagatha out there, and once you get on up in there, they've actually done a lot of improvement. They've put a lot of signs up now. But even with the foliage and the leaves down, man, it's just like, where's the trail? Which, any hiking trails like that these days. The last thing I was going to talk to you about is your boy Colt. I noticed he's gotten into a lot of shooting lately.
Yeah, he likes to shoot.
So is he taking classes? Is that what I've seen?
Not this past Christmas, but the Christmas before that, I gave him a gift certificate to take it was like an hour-long class.
Okay.
And he got into it pretty good. He likes to shoot, and he was shooting the Glock tournament a couple of times.
Okay.
But I don't know, 13-year-old kids are.
Yeah. Does he have interest in sticking with it, or?
He just likes to shoot. He's
Okay.
he's like, I don't really care for the competition part of it.
That's funny. I was just kind of wondering because me and a guy that I work with, he's already got his gun. I'm in the process of finalizing the purchase of mine, but we both bought Canic TP9s, which are competition 9mm.
Okay.
It's got the slated rails and the match grade barrel, and then it's got the lighter recoil springs, and the one I've buying actually has the Hollow Sun red dot coming on it. But the whole intentions was we're gonna go, because everybody says they can shoot, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna go take classes, and we're actually gonna learn how to do it properly. We're gonna do close quarter combat or close quarter draw. We're gonna do concealed carry classes that teach us how to actually properly conceal carry. But the goal for both of us is by the end of the year, we want to be able to shoot a tactical course.
Oh, that'd be really
I'm sure you've seen them where they, you've got silhouettes that are different colors, and certain silhouettes are good guys, certain silhouettes are bad guys, and you've got to, go through and tactically shoot them. That's our plan. So I know Colt had been shooting. I've seen some of his videos, so I thought I'd ask you about that.
Yeah, I mean, he started out with the 9, and it was a little bit much.
Yeah.
And I bought him the Glock 44 or something like that. It's the 22 caliber.
Okay.
And but I wasn't real impressed with that gun.
No?
No.
So that was something I've actually looked into recently because I wanted I've gotten into shooting the 22 for accuracy. I wanted a gun that I could carry in my backpack that was the same caliber. So I actually looked at the Glock 22.
Yeah, it's real finicky.
Is it?
You have to get really like high priced ammo for it to feed real good. If I was gonna get a 22 to keep in my backpack, it'd be like the Ruger or the little Browning Buckmark.
So it sounds like that 22 experience is kind of the same thing that I experienced with some of the Springfield single stack guns. Mm-hmm. They're so small, and unless you run out like a high gunpowdered ammunition through it.
The only ammo that would really feed good in that was like the CCI Super something.
Yeah, it's a high grain ammo.
Yeah, and it's hard to find.
Mm-hmm. I mean, so my brother had a Canic, and he was having the issue with it stovepiping because of the recoil spring. Mm-hmm. And so they were like, well, you can buy a new recoil spring, or you can just shoot higher grain ammo. And so he was having to shoot like 120 grain 9mm ammo out of it. And so he was just like, you know what, so he ended up selling it and then buying a CZ, which is another competition 9mm.
Yeah.
I don't even think he shot that gun at all. And then he wanted a Glock, so he ended up trading a guy the CZ and all of his ammo, even for a Glock, and all the ammo the guy had for the Glock. And I don't think he shot that gun yet, because when me and him were talking about it, he was talking about he needed to get out and shoot his gun.
I mean, I love Glocks. I carry a 26, but as far as like the 22, I don't like that little gun.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just want something to go out and shoot, it's fine. But we were having problems with. I mean, it would jam. Mm-hmm. And that shooting competition's is timed.
So was it a 3-gun comp, or was it?
It's just a straight like how many? I think you shot 50 rounds.
Okay. All right, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on here and doing this.
Yeah, man. Cool.
I know you have some social media platforms. Do you want to give out your Instagram? You post a lot of cool stuff on there. If you don't, it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's me, Christopher K. I think.
Okay. So what I'll do is after when I do all the editing, when I get it uploaded, I'll link your Instagram, because you've got a lot of cool Jeep pictures on there, and you post from kayaking and fishing and stuff.
Yeah, I try to post some cool stuff on there.
So I'll link that in the description for you.
Yeah.
Again, man, I appreciate you coming on, and this kind of leaves it open-ended, so I'm sure there'll be a future episode.
Yeah, man, we'll have to do it again after we go kayak.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Have a good day.
All right, man. Before we close this out, I have a favor to ask from the audience. One, could you please be sure you subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening, so that you can receive all new episodes right when they're released. And if you could, go ahead and go over to iTunes or the Apple Podcast app and leave a review. Man, tell us what you enjoyed or what we could do better. Offer up a guest recommendation, etc. This will help tremendously in letting Apple know that people are actually enjoying the content, and it will help us be put into the search engines, or recommended more often in the search engines. And lastly, Dirtbag Adventures is on several social platforms, including YouTube. Really, the best way to reach this content is by going to www.dirtbagadventurespodcast.buzzsprout.com. And then once you're on the website, you'll see the podcast episodes down at the bottom in chronological order. And then at the top of the homepage, you'll find all of the social links for the other various platforms that Dirtbag Adventures is on. And thank you again for joining me in this episode of the Dirtbag Adventures podcast. Catch you on the next one.